If you've outgrown your small car and you're looking to upgrade to an SUV or a crossover because your family's grown, you need more space, or simply you just like the styling of them, then you are spoilt for choice. Pretty much every manufacturer has a ton of options out there. So which one do you know is right for you? Well, ultimately, if you're only going from A to B, you don't need to cross the country or go over mountains. They all pretty much do the same thing and offer a very similar package. It comes down to your personal preference. And there are people out there with Fiat 500s that love their cars. So when they offered a larger version of the Fiat 500 in the X, it was a no-brainer for a lot of people. And ultimately, we tend to stick with the brands we know and love. I've always been a Volkswagen girl. I had a Volkswagen Up. I'd consider a Volkswagen Golf, and I love the Volkswagen T-Roc. So if you drive a Fiat 500, then this is a great option. But it was first released in 2015. It's had a few alterations around 2018, which gave it a new exterior and interior styling. But is it still relevant in today's market, or is there other SUVs or crossovers that do the job of the 500X better? Well, hopefully that's what I'm going to answer in today's video. So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. And if you like new car reviews and car content, then hit that subscribe button. The 500X can be had in 5 different flavours, and they pretty much have something for everyone. You've got the entry-level Club. Now this offers you value for money. It hasn't got the best fit and finish, but it's got a decent level of equipment and is pretty good value. The next one is your Cross. Now this offers you something which is still pretty rare in the crossover market, and that's 4-wheel drive. Then, if you fancy your styling and want to do your bit for charity, you could go for the Red. You then have the Sport Edition, which is the model that I have here. And as you can see, it has a slightly sportier body kit and a couple of rear twin tailpipes. The last is the Dolce Vita. I really need to work on my Italian. But essentially, that gives you a fabric roof, turning the Fiat 500 into a convertible. But unlike the T-Roc convertible, which is the only other crossover I know in this class, it doesn't compromise on loading space because it's simply a fabric roof which rolls back and can give you the option of either a sunroof or a full convertible, but you still get all of the space that you get in this standard Fiat 500X. So what is the 500X powered by? Well, there's the option of 2 petrol engines. The first is a 1 litre petrol producing 120 brake horsepower. You then had a change for 2022, which saw the old 1.3 litre engine swapped out for a new 1.5 litre mild hybrid engine with 130 brake horsepower paired together with an automatic gearbox. This has definitely brung a welcome change to the previous, slightly underpowered 1.3 litre engine. It's now much smoother, and of course, you have that hybrid technology. However, unfortunately, you won't expect any levels of fuel economy like you get out of the Toyotas. It is simply a mild hybrid, so it slightly complements the engine, gives you a very small amount of fuel economy difference from the previous engine of around 45 to 50 miles per gallon. But overall, it's just there to make it more modern and keep up with some of the current times. However, the engine I would still go for is the one that I have, the 1 litre 120 brake horsepower petrol. It's now turbocharged and it has more than enough power to propel the 500X. This sport version feels a little bit familiar, doesn't it? It reminds me of my Abarth. It's got those chunkier front and rear bumpers and you've got those flared wheel arches. So does that mean it's packing something special under the bonnet? No, unfortunately not. There's no Abarth engines here, it's simply the same petrol 120 or 130 engines, which is a little bit of a shame at first, but does this chunky SUV really need a performance variant? No, I don't think so. So the styling is purely cosmetic on the interior and exterior. You get those flared wheel arches and you also get this slightly darker detailing along the front where it runs along the badge and around the fog lights. You also get a couple of options of nice 18-inch alloy wheels, and around the back you get a twin tailpipe. If a large amount of boot storage is important to you out of your crossover, then that might put the Fiat 500X out of your options, because inside here you'll find 350 litres. That's less than even some small hatchbacks, and it's going to be completely outshone by something like the Ford Puma, which has that mega box. However, if you don't need loads and loads of boot storage, it's more than practical enough. Plus, you've got a nice flash boot floor, and if you put those seats forward, you'll also have a flat loading area which you can slide items in and out. And something I noticed, because I've recently lived with the Peugeot 3008, is that boot is very, very heavy. It's really quite heavy if you don't have the electric one. The Fiat 500X's, however, is nice and light. Just like the Nissan Qashqai, which is kind of in the class above, these rear doors open really nice and wide. So putting car seats in is really easy, and it also makes getting in and out really simple as well. Now, they might not have focused on having a ton of boot space, but that does mean it's left quite a lot of room in the back. I've got a really decent amount of knee room, a good amount of headroom as well. It feels quite spacious in here, not cramped like some other small crossovers. Because of this lever as well, it makes it quite practical for being able to wipe clean. You do get ISOFIX fitments on both of these outer passenger seats. However, unfortunately, there's not one on the front, which is a real shame when you compare it to some of its rivals. Fiat sometimes have a hard time with people saying they're not particularly nice quality, but actually, inside the 500X Sport, it's really good quality. I'm quite impressed. You've got a nice leather-wrapped kind of Alcantara and leather with red stitching around the steering wheel. It's flat-bottomed as well. This is really nice. You've got matching Alcantara over this little head unit here as well. It's so nice. That red stitching also matches on the seats, which are part leather again, or part leather appearance anyway, with the matching red and white stitching. These are really nice. They're nice and bolstered. They're actually comfortable. Unlike my bolstered seats in my Abarth, you can actually drive for long distances in these. Now, they are manually adjusted, but there's quite a lot of adjustments in them actually, and you do have electronic lumbar support too, so you can get comfortable on nice long journeys. But it's not just the steering wheel which is good quality. It's actually all right elsewhere as well. Okay, it's a little bit plasticky, but they haven't used gloss black, and that means that this is going to appeal to a lot of people that hate that scratchy gloss black which always looks dirty and always is covered in scratches. My only complaint is you have this dashboard across here which has 500 on it. Now, I have the same thing in my Abarth. Why can't it say 500X? It's such a cost-saving thing, which would just be nice to personalise it above and beyond the Fiat 500. So let's talk about something which possibly dates this car the most, and that is the infotainment system. I'm pretty sure it's the same system that Fiat, Abarth and even probably Jeep have had for about 10 years. It's quite small now by industry standards at 7 inches. You do get on this sport model a TomTom. I think it's a TomTom system as standard. I'll be honest, in my Abarth, I've never used it. I just bypass this and use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But these screens are known for not always being the easiest to see when it's kind of sunny outside. And the main reason for that is because this is set up to be a left-hand drive car. So the screen is slightly pointed towards the passenger rather than the driver. So if you get a sunny day, it then makes it a little bit hard to read, which is a shame. But there are highlights, and that's that you've got some physical dials. You've got the physical dial to turn it off and on. You've also got the little scroller to turn your volume on and off. Down here, you've got some nice big buttons for your hazards and also your stop to turn that off. And you've got for some physical climate control dials as well, which are nice to use. They're like these little scrollers. And on this Sport, you get dual zone as well, which is a nice added extra. 2 USB charge ports. You've also got a 12 volt down there, but I'm not sure how many people even use 12 volt nowadays. Now, something I really like and that's been brought across from Jeep is the fact that you've got volume controls on your steering wheel behind the steering wheel. which I quite like. It means that you can get there really easily, and it leaves space to put lots of other controls on the steering wheel as well, including your adaptive cruise control, or adaptive in this model. It's the standard cruise control in other models. And then you've got your controls for your centre dial on here, and to accept and decline your calls. Now, this centre dial, it really is letting the car down. There's no option to have digital dials instead, and it's not as nice as you even get in the Fiat or in my Abarth. It would be nice to have a much larger digital screen, although I do think this is going to appeal to a different audience, to people that don't like all of those over the top complicated graphics and just want some really obvious dials, and it does have those. Storage is okay. You've got some averagely sized door bins, couple of cup holders, you've got a little bit of storage in your centre armrest, and you've also got just a little cubby hole in front of the gear selector. But unfortunately, there's nowhere to pop your mobile phone where it fits nicely, and there's also nowhere to put the keyless key either. You've also got an averagely sized glove box. You could fit a reasonable amount in there, including, of course, the classic manuals. And then you've got a little glove box above it as well. But what's that for? Well, here's where it comes in handy for watching other reviews and how you guys can teach us lots. And that's that this is actually cooled. So if you put your Coke in it will keep it nice and cold, which I think is a really handy feature. Fiat are often knocked for quite a few things, but their small peppy engines are usually a highlight that customers talk about. They really suit the cars, and especially this 120 brake horsepower manual. It just fits the Fiat 500. Around town it's really zippy, it's got more than enough power at low speeds. Yes, okay, when you get onto the motorway or if you need to get up big hills, you do have to thrash it quite hard and it struggles a little bit. But then that's usually what we expect from any small engine in a car of this size. It's not necessarily outperformed by some of its rivals. In fact, recently my colleague Anna was switching her Fiat 500 and she wanted something else with a small engine, and she couldn't actually find really anything on the market which had the same level of power out of such a small engine. There is one area though that it does tend to be outperformed by rivals, and that's sound quality. The Fiat 500X, especially in this petrol form over the mild hybrid, is quite noisy, especially when you thrash it. And I know these cars aren't designed to be thrashed, but because of the nature of the engine, you do have to push it quite hard if you need to take over somebody or if you want to join a dual carriageway. And then there's quite a lot of noise that comes from that engine. Something like the Ford Puma in its hybrid form would be much quieter. What I do like is, despite being based on a small car like the Fiat 500, it still has 6 gears, which just makes it a bit more set up for beyond urban driving. Since its release in 2015, the Fiat 500X has received some upgrades and refinements which just mean it's nicer to drive. And you can feel that as well. Despite the fact it's quite tall, body roll, it's not too bad. It's better than I expected. And the steering's well weighted as well. You kind of can nip it around. It's not necessarily going to be exciting to drive, but it's better than I expected. So should you still be considering a Fiat 500 in 2022? Well, ultimately, I think that comes down to what you need from a crossover. If you need four-wheel drive, then the Fiat 500 Cross is one of the very few crossovers out there that offer that option. Plus, if you stick to lower trim levels with that manual gearbox, it seems pretty good value for money when you include everything you get. However, as you step up the more expensive trim levels and you add things like the automatic gearbox, it then becomes a little bit harder to justify, and there is a lot of really impressive small crossovers and SUVs from other brands which start to outshine the Fiat 500X. But ultimately, if you like the look of this crossover and it ticks all of your boxes, then who am I to tell you it's not the one to go for? You should absolutely go for it. But let me know, do you think it's still relevant in 2022, or do you think it's about time they shook it up and completely changed the Fiat 500X? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this on my channel, Also Social UK, then what are you waiting for? Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Until next time, guys, see you later.